What's up, guys? So I'm going to tell you guys exactly how I built an 8-figure ecom business, and it's going to sound like absolutely nuts, but I don't really care because most of you aren't ready to take this advice. Most of you aren't going to do anything about it, but the few that do something about it, it's going to absolutely change your life because it did for me. And the biggest thing off the bat is like, I didn't get to build an 8-figure brand because of hard work. And like, that's where I started at. Like I would work myself to the bone, like 14-hour days for years straight. And I used to just wonder, like, why wasn't I successful yet? Why wasn't this business that I was putting everything into successful yet? Because I started just like most of you. I didn't know ecom. I didn't grow up in a business family. My parents didn't have a lot of money growing up. I grew up with, limiting beliefs about money, thinking money was very difficult to come by. I used to drive up to a neighborhood, maybe 30 minutes from my house, and I used to look at these $1 million houses. Back then, probably $500,000 houses, and I used to think, how the fuck do all these people have so much money if money is difficult to make? Because I wasn't raised like that, right? So I grew up thinking that you had to work harder, that you had to work hard and pound the pavement and do all these things to make money. And so when I started my ecom journey, that's what I did. I watched YouTube video after YouTube video. I tried to learn all the things. And for the most part, I did, right? I was doing the right things. I was taking the right steps every day. I was building the funnels. I was doing all of these things, but nothing seemed to work. And it seemed like the harder that I worked, the more frustrated I became. Like things wouldn't change all that much. And I used to just try to force my buyers to buy my thing. I would put out ad after ad. I would read a course after course. And one day it just struck me like the problem isn't the work. The problem is my mind. I have a broke mindset. And that's probably something that not a lot of you have thought about is the unlock, but I promise you, it was 100,000,000% the unlock for me. I was preconditioned based on how I grew up to think that it was supposed to be hard. And I didn't consciously understand that until I really started looking into my mindset. But I wasn't ready for success, and I was making it much more difficult than it needed to be. I was watching my Shopify dashboard like a hawk. I was watching my ad performance. Even when it started to go well, I'd have really good days, and I would be so damn nervous that it was not going to work out. And that's just not like an abundance mindset. That's not a mindset of an 8-figure business owner, right? So that's when I decided, and I didn't even decide, I really just made a commitment. I knew that this was my destiny. And I knew I needed to do something drastic because nothing that I was doing was working. So I completely went to war with my own subconscious, my own mind. And that sounds crazy, but I'm going to tell you exactly what I did and why it worked for me and why it will work for you too if you do the same thing. It takes, like anything, it takes commitment, but it takes commitment in a different way than most of you are used to. And for me, it was literally psychological warfare against my own mind. I would wake up every morning and meditate for maybe 30 minutes, not like crazy, like feet crossed shit, but like literally focused in intention time where I would not start working until I felt like I had already become an 8-figure entrepreneur. I literally would see myself having this beautiful home. I would see myself, having a beautiful big bank account with millions of dollars in it. And I didn't start working until I literally could see that. So I completely brainwashed myself in a sense where I was already there. So instead of trying to get there, and every day I'm stressed out of my mind because I'm not there yet. I'm not scaling hard enough. I completely brainwashed myself so that I was already there, if that makes sense. So I wouldn't start working until I had actually envisioned myself. And that freed up my entire day of work. And so the first thing that I did was not caring about results. In those like moments where I would be meditating, I would think to myself, if I've already become this 8-figure brand owner, would I be focused on like hour by hour results, daily results, weekly results? No, I would be doing the right next steps to build the business. I would be hiring the best creative strategists I could possibly hire, even though before that I didn't think I had the money. So I started throwing around money like it was crazy. I remember people I'd meet with, they would think that I was way further along than I was because of the decisions and the hires I was making. And that's kind of my point, is along with this, I discovered that if you brainwash yourself to think that you are already there, you will make decisions that you would make if you're already there. So this is critical. You need to pay attention to this. The problem with most business owners, if you haven't made it yet, is you don't understand, or you don't think like you will when you're 3 steps, 10 steps further ahead, right? So it's not what would I do today to fix today's problem? You need to think 10 orders of magnitude ahead. And what happened for me when I saw myself as that 8-figure brand owner is I started making decisions like very, very freely. So the 8-figure brand owner would hire the best possible creative strategist he could, right? Versus the old me, I was doing everything myself. I was just trying to like dig it out of the dirt and outwork the situation, where I only have so much capacity in time and I only have so much skills at the time, especially. So for me to try to get to 8 figures by just doing all the work myself was absolutely crazy, but I didn't understand that, right? I was thinking about how to solve today's problem, which was me making, $30K a month or something. So I'm thinking about, I switched my thinking from being a $30K a month brand owner to an 8-figure brand owner. So that completely freed me up. I was spending money on all the right things, but previously, like the before me would never have spent that money because I'm looking at daily balance sheets. I'm looking at daily ROAS. I'm not like thinking like an 8-figure brand owner. So hopefully that makes sense, but you have to think 10 orders of magnitude ahead if you're ever going to get where you need to get. And I believe we all need success, like for us, like morally, for us, like physiologically, for our mental health. Like you deserve to be successful. And the only way to get successful is to think like a successful person. And so that's what I did every single day. I literally would think, okay, what would this 8-figure version of me do? Because it's not about being somebody else. It's literally about bringing your present or your future self, your future best version of yourself into the present, right? Like that person, that best version of you, it's there. You just have to bring it in compressed time and bring it into the future, or bring it into the present. And so that's what thinking 10 orders of magnitude ahead, believing that you're already there, will do. And the other thing that I did is I told myself, okay, I'm making a rule. I'm not looking at results. And that, again, that's something that happened when I was meditating about what would this 8-figure brand owner of myself do. He wouldn't look at these daily results. So I stopped caring about results. That freed me up to hire the best people. That freed me up to look at different strategies and I would pull the trigger on those strategies versus before I would just look at the cost. I would look at the short-term return versus the 8-figure version of me wasn't worried about the next week's revenue, right? I was worried about like hitting 8 figures, hitting 9 figures eventually, like doing these big things. And to do these big things, you have to make completely different decisions based on what's going to be the best in 3 months, right? If I hire the best creative strategist I could possibly find, that is going to be a net negative for the first maybe couple months, potentially, with the salary you pay them and like the time it takes to get them up to speed on the brand. So that previous version of me would never have done that. But the new version of me thought like, who cares? Screw it. Like a month or two of a net negative to build an 8-figure brand and have all this abundance, have $1 million in the bank, like all these things. Like it suddenly just became so damn clear to me, the path that I needed to choose. And you're not going to be shocked by this, but it worked, right? Like, you probably, if you're following along, you probably understand that, like, it seems so obvious, but it wasn't obvious to me at the time. And it probably isn't obvious to you at your stage of business, right? You have to put yourself 10 orders of magnitude ahead so you can think that way, so you can act that way, so you can actually execute and get the results that that version of you would get versus getting today's results. There's such a big gap between those two. And the biggest reason and the biggest lever that I found was my mind game. Like, I would go into meetings, I would take calls as if I was already the 8-figure brand owner, which honestly, I couldn't even have hired the best creative strategist that was way better than me at the time if I was still thinking as this 30K brand owner, right? Like, I would have been like, oh, you're so much better than me. You know so much more. But like, no, I was an 8-figure brand owner. So I was like grilling him, and, he respected that. He saw my hunger. He saw my drive. He respected the fact that I was speaking as if I was already successful, and he wanted to work for me, right? So that is the biggest difference. And the second thing that I did was really letting go of needing it to work, right? And it all comes back to this visualization piece that I was already an 8-figure brand owner. So if I'm an 8-figure brand owner, do I intimately care that these results need to happen in this specific product that I'm testing, this specific brand that I'm running? Like, not really, because I'm building myself as a much better business person, entrepreneur, ecom guy, whatever. And so I just completely let go of these results. Like, I knew that it was just data at that point, right? So this old version of me was hyper focused on, ROAS on an hourly basis. The new version of me was not at all worried. I was hiring the best creative strategists. I was getting the best ads possibly. I was getting branded ads. I was doing reach. I was doing things that these 8-figure guys were doing. And I knew that it was just only a matter of time, if I executed properly, that it was going to work, because I was totally separated from the results. I was only focused on the process of who I was becoming, and doing the right work and doing the right next steps in the business, completely regardless of the short-term results. Because I knew if I executed perfectly on this newest campaign that was an 8-figure execution, that even if it didn't work, the data would lead me to a positive feedback loop that I would fix, and we would get there eventually, right? So, 3, 6, 9 months ahead is where I was looking, because that's what these 8-figure brand owners do. So I completely shifted the entire paradigm of how I was living my life, and the results were absolutely crazy after that. You just can't believe what my life looked like before and what it looked like after in, a matter of weeks, because I completely detached short-term results, like I keep saying. So I literally, in my mind, I knew that it was going to work, because I would do my morning meditation. I would visualize myself not achieving it, but have already achieved it. That's the secret. All the woo-woo abundance guys will tell you that, but it's true. If it exists out there, if you can visualize it, then it exists in the universe, and it becomes matter. And that sounds crazy, but I promise you, if you focus on it enough, you can bring anything you want into your life in a real way. But just like anything else, it takes work. But the point I keep coming back to is it takes work on the right things. I was working my ass off and only making I would spend 30K on ads and I would bring in 30K. Like, I was making no money, and it was not for lack of effort, right? And like I always say, like, a janitor works his ass off, but he's not rich. So what's the difference, right? Like, visualizing yourself being that person, and then taking the steps that you see in that visualization to actually get you there. And when you're in that state of mind, you just, like, I made better decisions. I made the right decisions. It was very clear to me when I was in that frame of mind, which I still am today. I keep leveling up at different phases of my life, and it's so much fun. The third thing I did was stop letting my immediate circumstance dictate my state of mind. And I think we can all speak to this as ecom guys or drop shippers or brand owners. The before version of me was so fixated on like, shit, revenue's down, my bank account's negative, I feel crappy, right? Because I'm letting my today's data set dictate how I feel mentally, physically, and emotionally. Whereas this new visualized version of me, I didn't give a shit at all because I knew I was there. I knew I was getting everything that I had ever wanted in my life. I had already painted this picture and I just knew it. I could feel it almost. And it just freed me up. And I went from checking my bank account daily, checking my ads daily, like I keep saying, to just focusing on the work of an 8-figure brand owner and visualizing myself getting everything I wanted. And it took care of the rest because I literally rewired my thinking from somebody that was struggling to somebody that had already put millions of dollars in their bank account. And your subconscious can't tell if that's real or not. So my subconscious was already rich. It already felt that I had millions of dollars in the bank account. So why would I be worried about losing a few $1,000s on ads here or there? Like, it's not a big deal when you have millions of dollars in the bank account. The trick is visualizing your ass off every single day to make your subconscious believe that you have millions of dollars in your bank account. You have this beautiful home, all of these things. That's the really difficult part. It sounds easy, but it takes work every single day. And the fourth thing I did was stop listening to people that hadn't been where I had been. And this is so crucial to all of us, whether you're watching this, whether you have friends that are stuck in this, but like, if you want to achieve something big in life, it's like a universal law that other people are going to try to drag you down because that makes them feel uncomfortable, right? Whether it's your parents, they don't want you to feel pain, right? They don't want you to fail. So they will tell you to not go try to achieve big things because they don't want you to fall and fail big. But that's the worst advice you could ever get, right? And unless your parents are multimillionaires, you shouldn't take multimillionaire advice from them. So I stopped listening to anyone that wasn't an 8-figure, 9-figure brand owner. And let me tell you, that changed my life, not only because I got better advice from them, but mostly because I got the right vibes from them. Like, they weren't coming from a place of like scarcity. It was all abundance. Like, they were problem solvers. They were positive thinkers. When I would come to them with a problem, they not only knew how to solve it, but they believed that it was solvable. And I think that's like the biggest shift that you can make, is everything is solvable. I coach a lot of younger drop shippers and ecom guys now. And before they come to me, they truly don't know if it's going to work. And I think that's the biggest thing that I try to impart on them is I know that it will work. I may not know how yet. I have a lot of great advice and I help them figure it out. But in my mind, I know that I can help them, and I do, because I believe that. I believe that I can solve their problem. And because I believe that, I do, and I help them create brands and become successful and start printing money. And eventually, I coach them on believing that they can. And that belief carries them much further than any like micro tactics, because if you believe that it's possible, you will find the solutions. If you are not sure that this product is going to work, if you're not sure that this tactic is going to work, you'll just kind of half-ass it, and most likely it's not going to work. But if you believe that there is 100% a way for you to solve this, you will find the way. You will see the way. And it's hard to describe, but and here's a big takeaway. Like it sounds simple because I'm talking about, a multi-year time span. It probably took me maybe 10, 11 months to go from 30K to $1 million a month. But I had, 5 years of prior experience of grinding, which also tells you how big of a shift you can make in a short amount of time if you actually put your mind to it. Because I accomplished more in those 9 months, 100 times more in those 9 months, money-wise, than the previous 5 years, just because I was thinking so different. But it is a process. It took me months to get my mind right and to start feeling and believing that I was this person that not only had these things, but I felt like I was deserving, right? And that's like, they call it, what do they call it? Anyway, there's a term for it when you don't believe that you, what's the term for it? Anyway, there's a term for it when you don't believe that you are worthy of like millions of dollars or a successful business. And, you know, on an energetic level, which is everything in life is energy. If you don't believe that you're worthy, you will energetically repel that. So not only did I believe I was going to get it, but I brainwashed myself to believing that I deserved it. And I would, every day, I would feel like I deserved these positive things into my life. And man, it finds you at that point, right? If you visualize it, you believe it, you feel it. These things find you, but it's not overnight. You know, you've got to wake up every single day and work on your mental game. You know, you've got to go into every single meeting, every single, you know, mentor call, whatever, as if you are already successful. And if you do that, you will show up better, not only for everybody else, but most importantly for yourself. You'll be happier, you'll be calmer, you'll find solutions where other people didn't, because you know that the solutions are there, because that's just a stepping stone to where you're trying to get. So if you're watching this and you've been operating from a broke mindset, trust me, as someone that's been there, I've been through it, I've been stuck there, and I got my ass through it, and I've gotten everything that I've ever wanted in life, including helping others get the same things that I got, which is by far the most fulfilling part of it for me. But trust me, you can do this and you will do this. You just have to change your entire way of thinking and feeling and being, and you will become the person that you were destined to be if you can just bring them into the present. You don't need to wait 10 years to be the best version of yourself. You don't need to wait 10 years to make $1 million. You can do it now. I've seen guys do it in 3 months from no store just by crazy belief. But you have to stop caring so much about today's results. Visualize yourself achieving crazy results. I wish I could go back. One of the biggest pieces of advice that I always give is I wish I could go back and think 100 times bigger. I remember meeting with guys that were making $200,000 a day. And, I grew up in a $50,000 house in a small little town. I didn't know people could make $200,000 a year when I was a kid, let alone a day. So there is unlimited potential out there. Just surround yourself with the right people, surround yourself with the right mentors, and believe in yourself, and go to war with the freaking mental programming in your head, and you will do it too.